Yo, what's going on, Jets fans? You are watching the Jets Report by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman, and with the NFL trade deadline tomorrow, we're going to be diving into a lot of the latest NFL trade rumors around the New York Jets, and specifically, teams are calling the Jets about some of their marquee players. So we'll discuss all of that on today's show. But with the NFL trade deadline tomorrow, no better time than to hit that subscribe button because I would anticipate the Jets, maybe it's later on today, tomorrow morning before that deadline in the afternoon tomorrow that the Jets will make a trade. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button today. Also, we're closing in here on 11,000 subscribers. So help us out and hit that sub button. All right, so it was Albert Breer, first off, who was talking about the latest Jets trade rumors, and he had an interesting quote. And I think some of this was smoke. I'll discuss my thoughts on after this, but I do want to share with you guys a quote here first. This is what Breer had to say, saying the Jets also have edge rushers of interest. The team has no plans to move Will McDonald, but is listening on Jermaine Johnson. Johnson has a year left on his deal after this one, and it sounds like New York would want a second-round pick for him. Veteran defensive end Michael Clemens is available as well, as is linebacker Quincy Williams. Now, I think this might be smoke from the Jets, for the main reason being that they have pretty much already came out and said that they are not moving Jermaine Johnson. Jermaine Johnson posted one Wolf of Wall Street meme on Twitter where he said, "I ain't effing leaving." So I wonder if this is smoke from the Jets where they want to report out there being like, hey, we're not moving Will McDonald. They get people on the line talking about Jermaine Johnson. Then they shift the conversation to McDonald because McDonald, he's only playing about 40% of snaps right now. They clearly don't trust him on early down. So I think he's going to be a guy that could potentially get traded for like a fourth, fifth-round pick at the deadline for a team. Could just have a true edge rusher. Obviously not good on early downs, but he still can get to the quarterback at a high level. So I think this might be smoke on the Jets front. Just getting this report out there saying, hey, we have no interest in trading Will McDonald. Maybe try to finesse, a fourth-round pick compared to a fifth-round pick from McDonald. But I definitely thought that was a little interesting from Breer. And then also Ian Rappaport said this, saying Breece Hall, Quinnen Williams, and Jermaine Johnson have drawn headlines for the Jets. I don't know why they keep on including Jermaine Johnson in these, articles talking about him potentially being traded because I would be absolutely shocked if Jermaine Johnson gets dealt. One, I don't understand why the Jets would trade Jermaine Johnson. Like, he clearly feels like an Aaron Glenn guy, and that has been a big topic of conversation. With the trade deadline approaching, they got to figure out, like, who are the guys that Aaron Glenn want on his football team, and specifically on defense, his side of the football. Well, Jermaine Johnson is just that. Like, he is pretty solid against the run. He's obviously a tremendous pass rusher, and it feels like a guy that the Jets want to build around on that defensive line next to Quinnen Williams. So I would be very, very shocked if the Jets do end up trading Jermaine Johnson for a second-round pick. Probably a fair asking price, but if you're getting a second for Jermaine, I'm probably saying no on that deal. So again, I'll be shocked if they end up trading Jermaine. And also adding Quinnen Williams there, why would the Jets trade Quinnen Williams? Like, I understand you're 1-7. This season is, not necessarily a throwaway, but you're not going to make the playoffs. And if you would get a first-round pick back for Quinnen Williams, you're just hoping that that first-rounder that you select is as good as Quinnen Williams, which will probably not be the case. So I would have no interest in trading Quinnen Williams as well. Quinnen, Jermaine, Sauce Gardner, I think those are the three guys defensively who are like locked in for the future for this ball club as like the true Aaron Glenn guys. But a guy offensively that could get traded, Breece Hall. Albert Breer had this to say on Breece, saying maybe the most interesting one here, though, is Breece Hall, who's the centerpiece of the offense. There might have been a point this summer where he would have gone for a fourth rounder, but at this point, even on an expiring deal, it will take a day two pick for to pry him from the Jets. And a big reason why I don't think the Jets would trade Breece Hall is because if you can just call it like it is, they would probably have the worst weapons in the NFL without Breece. Because then you're having Isaiah Davis, who's a fine complementary running back, but do you want him being that true RB1? And then the depth behind them at the running back position would be super thin. Obviously, the problems at the wide receiver spot, even though Garrett Wilson back at practice today, we should have him back out there. But just as a whole, between wide receivers, running backs, and tight ends, I mean, the Jets would be at the bottom of the barrel if they got rid of Breece Hall. And also what Breer said, like, he is the centerpiece of the offense. Like, the Jets want to be a downhill, run-first offense, and Breece Hall is the centerpiece of that, obviously combined with the offensive line. And Breece Hall has looked absolutely fantastic this season. So I have mixed thoughts on trading Breece Hall. I'll give you guys more thoughts here in a second, but you guys make the call for me. Day two pick, second or third rounder for Breece Hall. What say you on this one? Give me a T for trade. Give me a P for pass. You guys let me know your thoughts. A third rounder, probably would say no, but a second rounder for Breece, it honestly gets to the point, like, how could you, possibly say no to getting a second rounder? So this is an interesting conversation. I'll give you guys more thoughts here in a second. But before we do so, got to tell you guys about today's presenting sponsor, and that is Prize Picks. Now, the hard-hitting football action is even better with Prize Picks. The weather might be changing, but the feeling of right never gets old. So keep the season rolling on Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. Prize Picks is the only app that offers stacks. I mean, you can pick up to the same player 3 times in the same lineup. So if you guys want to pick more on Justin Fields, pass yards, rush yards, and touchdowns, well, now you can pick all of them in the same lineup only on Prize Picks. You guys can also follow other Prize Picks players directly on the app and copy their lineups in one click, whether it's a friend, celebrity partner, or just someone whose picks you like. Hit that follow button and check out every lineup they create in the new Feed tab on Prize Picks. So download the Prize Picks app today, plug in that promo code CLNS, and we'll hook you guys up with $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's promo code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. But massive shout out to Prize Picks for sponsoring today's show. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. All right, let's talk about some Breece Hall destinations here. I think the most likely team still is the Kansas City Chiefs. But also for the Chiefs to get him, I'm assuming it would take a second-round pick. And maybe the Chiefs are in a spot where they're saying, hey, this offense, we need that extra gear. We need to be more consistent on the ground where not all of the, weight of the offense falls on Patrick Mahomes and the passing attack. And Breece Hall, I mean, he would turn out to probably be one of the best football players in the league with the Chiefs offense. So it really just comes down to them. Like, do you want to almost give the Jets an offer they can't refuse? Like, if they give a second and like a 6th-round pick for Breece, I think the Jets would be very open to doing that deal. But another team, the Houston Texans, obviously Joe Mixon, probably going to miss the remainder of the season. Nick Chubb, obviously not who he was with the Cleveland Browns. They got Woody Marks, but them being at 3-5, and they're obviously not in like a true win now situation because they still have a young quarterback, young edge rusher on those rookie deals, but they're trying to somehow keep pace in that AFC South with the Colts having a very good record, the Jags getting a big time win yesterday over the Raiders. Maybe they could be a team that could be calling about Breece Hall, but I don't know if the Texans would be willing to give up a 2nd-round pick. I think that would be more of like a 3rd. Maybe they attach a 6th to pry him from the Jets. Now, also another team, the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, they're in a sticky situation because Joe Alt was carted off the field yesterday, and when they don't have Joe Alt, like their offensive line takes a massive blow. I mean, not having Alt and Slater, it's just tough to overcome. But again, like with them having Amari and Hampton, who is on short-term IR, so they should get him back. But if they just want to really lean into the run game, make it easier on Justin Herbert, I could see them potentially calling on Breece Hall. And then another team that's probably going to have to give up a 2nd-round pick and more for Breece would be the New England Patriots because you got to pay that divisional tax. The Jets, they are not going to want to just give them to New England. I mean, fans would, completely combust if that happens. But if you could get a solid haul in return, and that's the best offer on the table, maybe they would consider it. But trading Breece Hall is an interesting conversation because Breece Hall this year, he has been a little inconsistent, but when he has had his big-time games, he has truly been the best player on the football field. And he looks like he's got his same explosive ability back from when he was in that 2024 season where he looked like one of the better running backs in the entire NFL. And, he is one of the better running backs in the league. And, in terms of how much he could potentially get paid, I think you have to look at some other guys. I think he would probably fall into like that 5 to 8 range. Honestly, I think the James Cook contract is a great one to go off of him getting $11.5 million per year. With the salary cap going up, maybe he gets a little more than that, around that $12 to $13 million range. But when it comes down to like trading Breece Hall, like the Jets need to make a decision if they're going to pay him this offseason right now. Because if you have no interest in paying Breece Hall this offseason and having him being a long-term part of this offense for the future, then you probably should trade him. But if also you make that decision, Darren Bougie sits down and he says, hey, Breece Hall, you, Garrett Wilson, Mason Taylor, that's going to be our trio of weapons next to whether it's Justin Fields or a young quarterback stepping in, then obviously you're not going to trade him. So my offer to Breece Hall, just get a 2-year deal, $25 million. You can make 18 of this guaranteed. You would have an out after the first year on that contract. But also I'm assuming Breece Hall would want a 4-year deal to re-up with the New York Jets. So, again, this is a very, very interesting conversation. I am kind of 50-50 right now in terms of my prediction, whether the Jets will trade him or if they will keep him past this NFL trade deadline. Even though my gut is kind of leaning towards them keeping him, especially with the performance he had against the Cincinnati Bengals back in Week 8. He looked like one of the best running backs in the league. So, again, I have no idea what's going to happen. But if the Jets do decide to keep Breece Hall, you guys, I'm going to hear your thoughts. How much per year would you pay Breece Hall? I think 12.5 is more than fair. I'm probably not going up to that $15 million range. I'm just not a fan of paying any running back that much money. But you guys, let me know your thoughts. How much would you pay Breece Hall per year? And also hit that subscribe button on your way out. Trying to hit 11,000 subscribers here on the channel, so it'd be greatly appreciated. And we'll see you guys next time. As always, go Jets.